Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Plant Physiology course. In the last video, we classified taproot on the basis of their extent of growth below the surface of the soil. Usually, the taproot is classified into these two types, and these are fibrous taproot and tuberous taproot. The first kind, fibrous, as its name indicates, fibrous means root which is quite thin. However, this term fibrous is mostly used in case of adventitious roots and not for the taproot. But anyway, it is mostly defined, that is the fibrous taproot, when the taproot remains thin. It remains and it doesn't get thicker than it branches. Taproot remains thin and it does not get thicker than its branches. In other words, the taproot itself and its branches are quite thin. So in such a situation, it is known as fibrous taproot, thicker than its branches. And if we try to draw a diagram, so this is the taproot, so it remains quite thin, and the taproot itself and its branches, they are almost of the same size, so we cannot distinguish which one is the taproot, although in this diagram we can easily distinguish it, but mostly it is indistinguishable from its branches, and they are quite thin, the branches and the taproot itself. So under such condition, it is known as fibrous taproot. However, as the name indicates, fibrous, now fibrous means very thin and thread-like, so it is not that much thin, but still it's quite thin. The main taproot, that is the primary as well as the secondary roots or tertiary, so they are quite thin and similar in thickness or girth. So this was the fibrous taproot. Next is the tuberous taproot, the second kind. Tuber is basically a general term, a generic term used in botany for any thick structure. So it can be root, it can be stem, it can be anything else. So tuber is a general term. Therefore, tuberous taproot, that means a root that becomes quite thick, thicker than its branches, and in fact it's very thick due to the storage of food. Mostly it stores up food and becomes quite thick, so it is known as tuberous taproot. So tuberous taproots are quite thick and swollen due to the storage of food. Now this thickness or its swelling, it swells up, and this is because of storage of food. A large amount of reserve food is present in the tuberous root. The most common tuberous taproots are found in biennial plants like radish and turnip, and also other plants. These two plants are cruciferous or plants belonging to the family Brassicaceae. The other are plants like carrot, which also has tuberous taproot. Tuberous taproots are further classified based on their shape. So based on shape, tuberous taproot are classified into three kinds: conical, fusiform, or napiform. Conical root, as its name indicates, it's a cone-like. It's broad at one end upper end and it gradually tapers towards the other end, and this portion is the reduced stem, and we are going to simply draw the bases of the leaves that have been cut away, and this is commonly found in radish. So this is a conical root, broad at one end and gradually tapers, narrows down at the other end. So this is conical. Next is the fusiform. Fusiform root is spindle shaped. It is thick in the center and it gradually tapers towards both the ends, somewhat like this. So this was the just to make it look realistic. So it is the same reduced stem with bases of the leaves that have been cut away, and as you can see it is thick in the center and then tapers towards both the ends, upper and lower. This is found what we call English radish in our area. So this is English radish. So fusiform and conical. Third kind is nepiform. This is also a thick tuberous root. Now nepiform, it's quite thick at one end and then it suddenly tapers at the other end like this, narrows down at the other end, whereas it's quite thick at one end. So same reduced stem. These two plants, these two roots, the conical and the nepiform, they belong to family Brassicaceae. So this is turnip, the example of the plant, and the root is nepiform, thick at one end and then it suddenly abruptly tapers at the bottom end or the lower end. So these are the three common tuberous taproots: conical, fusiform and nepiform. One more thing about the taproot, as far as the normal taproot or the fibrous taproot is concerned, what we call nodulated root. Root nodules are very common in family Fabaceae or the pea family. Formerly known as leguminosae, the legume producing plants. So plants of this family like pea, clover for example, their roots, the fibrous or the tap roots, they bear small swellings on their branches, secondary and tertiary roots, just like this. These are what we call the nodules or the root nodules. These nodules, they harbor the nitrogen fixing bacteria. So these are nodules found in family Leguminosae like pea plant and other leguminosae plant like bean, clover. So these are the common examples of leguminous plants. So they bear small pinkish swellings on their roots known as nodules, and these nodules contain nitrogen fixing bacteria, and they play a very important role in the nitrogen cycle. So these are known as nodulated roots, root nodules in the family Leguminosae. So this concludes our discussion of fibrous and tuberous taproots, or the discussion of taproot. In the next video we shall start the discussion of adventitious roots, inshallah. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.